I firmly disagree with my son getting married. On the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, I attended an engagement banquet. As a paternal aunt, it was truly an eye-opening experience. My sister told me that the bride's family demanded 480,000 renminbi, about $67,600 right off the bat. This young man's financial condition is upper middle class. To prepare a marital home for him, his parents sold their property in Hami and bought a house in Urumqi paid in full. The main purpose was to prevent the child from having to pay off a mortgage as soon as he gets married, avoiding putting a shackle on him for the rest of his life. The young man works at a railway unit with a monthly salary of 8,000 renminbi, about $1,120, and he also has to buy the traditional 5 gold jewelry. The woman is from Gansu, stayed in Urumqi after graduating from college, and sells cosmetics in a mall with a monthly salary of 4,000 to 5,000 renminbi, about $560 to $700. They had only been dating for about a year when the woman pushed to settle things down. The family set up 2 banquet tables, saying it was for the parents of both sides to sit together and finalize the kids' marriage. As a result, before the food was even served, the conversation about the bride price hit 480,000 renminbi, about $67,600. Oh, just look at the current market. For families with sons like us, getting married isn't just peeling a layer of skin off the parents. It's practically extracting our sinews and drinking our blood. The cars, houses, bride price, wedding ceremony, wedding photos, traditional gold jewelry, honeymoon, and all the expenses, big and small, are entirely borne by the groom's side. If the 2 of them can live happily together, we would endure it and be willing to pay all this. But does the other party truly love my son? Is she getting married to build a life together, or is she just looking for a way out of poverty? Will she actually care for my son? How long can this relationship even last? Oh, I think it's all a massive unknown. I really want to ask, is your daughter lined with gold? Asking for a bride price of 480,000 renminbi, about $67,600, right from the start. You really have the nerve. You're calculating all the expenses from your daughter's birth to her college graduation and putting it all on the groom's head. Are you marrying off a daughter or selling her? Families with daughters often post videos saying that if they can't find someone who loves and spoils her, they'd rather she stays single and unmarried. I just want to say your girls need love, but do our boys not need love? Our sons are also the precious treasures we held in the palms of our hands as they grew up. Love should be mutual, not a one-sided extraction. Sigh, I just don't get it. How did it become a given in the other party's eyes after dating and getting married? If she can't find someone to love and spoil her, just how lowly do you think my son must be to become someone else's lifelong ATM? Your daughter is a treasure, but the son we painstakingly raised is also a treasure. We buy him a car, a house, leave him savings, and buy him insurance. Isn't that just so he can live a happier and easier life? If he meets someone suitable with aligned values, then they can get married. If not, then he won't marry. We absolutely refuse to be a poverty alleviation project. Think about it. Our son can make 8 to 10,000 RMB, about $1,120 to $1,400 a month on his own. He can occasionally hang out with friends for barbecue, and his little daily life is quite nice. He can buy what he likes and take annual leave to travel. Why is it that the moment he gets married, he turns himself into a money-making tool? Since when did families with sons become so lowly and subservient? We aren't looking for a daughter-in-law in name only, nor are we looking for a tool to carry on the family line. I just want my son to live an easy life. If he can't find the right person, it's better to stay single than to settle. There is no need to gamble his entire life on some unknown happiness. In today's society, not getting married isn't shameful. Being suffocated by marriage and life, living in a constant state of chaos and misery, now that is what's truly shameful.
以后的女孩子，你听好了啊。
Girls of the future, listen carefully. In most cases, you will have to be independent. Why? Because men are retreating on a massive scale. The simps and sky-high bride prices of the past will likely become history in a few years. Many men have done the math, emptying 6 wallets, savings of the couple and their parents, and taking on a 30-year mortgage, only to end up with a marriage that could turn hostile at any moment over a lack of emotional value. They just aren't doing it anymore. They have awakened and decided to lie flat, because not having to support a family is truly comfortable and liberating. So stop saying that having children is a favor done for men, and stop expecting to use marriage to control anyone. When men don't even want to get married anymore, all those so-called bargaining chips of yours instantly drop to zero. You say you want to be a strong, independent boss lady. But what is the reality? The reality is that in the workplace, you have to compete with men in terms of IQ, physical stamina, and stress resistance. Look at the top of the pyramid in every industry. How many of them are women? This isn't about degrading women. We are just stating the facts. When it comes to the infrastructure that keeps society running, national defense, and being the primary breadwinners, men truly carry the bulk of the load. In the past, you despised men for being poor. Now they simply refuse to play the game with you altogether. They have seen through it. Since marriage is a losing business deal, why shouldn't I comfortably stay single? So girls, wake up. If you are 40 years old, living in a big house and driving a nice car, but you have no lover and no children by your side, that is called a mansion, not a home. Having a husband who loves you and children to keep you company, that is true, steady happiness. This isn't feudal thinking, it's human nature. Therefore, if you persistently cling to the boss lady lifestyle in the future, you might even have to buy your own bottle of water. Marriage is not exploitation, and childbirth is not a bargaining chip. Only through mutual cooperation can men and women achieve a win-win situation. If you insist on creating antagonism, the final outcome will just be men and women growing old in their respective loneliness. Stop being brainwashed by toxic chicken soup, fake wisdom. Either become so independent that you don't need anyone, or learn how to cooperate. Don't wait until you are 40 to realize that you neither have the capital to remain single nor the confidence and qualifications to get married.
今天要聊一个很扎心的问题，就是
Today we're going to talk about a very heartbreaking question. Why is it that the more outstanding a woman is, the more likely she is to be single? I've actually spent some time recently researching this. Once, my friends and I went to Beijing for a trip. We took a cab, and the driver was a woman in her 40s. On the way, we were gossiping about love and marriage, and among the three of us, I was the only single one. So I said that I wanted to find a guy with an age difference of no more than 5 years, whose abilities were roughly on par with mine, someone on the same wavelength, so we could create a beautiful life together. I think my request is very normal, right? Not excessive at all. But when the driver heard this, she reacted strongly and said very coldly, "You won't find him." Then she started complaining about her niece. She said her niece is 30 years old, working as a nurse in a Beijing hospital. The aunt had set her up on dozens of blind dates. If it wasn't her niece rejecting the guys, it was the guys rejecting her niece. And when her niece rejected the guys, it was usually because she felt their abilities and income were not as strong as hers. In this driver's eyes, she thought her niece was too picky. She felt that even if a guy's abilities were just average, as long as he had a car, a house, and decent conditions, the woman should lower her standards and compromise. This incident triggered my thinking. It wasn't because I agreed with what she said, but because I wanted to refute her, yet I couldn't. Because this is a very cruel reality in the current marriage market. If a girl is pretty, she will definitely not lack suitors. But if she is pretty, has the right values, and is highly motivated, there is a high probability that she is single. I am currently studying for my MBA at Fudan University. My classmates are 35 years old on average, with 8 years of corporate management experience. They are all shining stars in their respective fields. I was born in '98 and am the youngest in my class. I found that in this group around me, the number of single female classmates far exceeds the males. Moreover, these women are all excellent, beautiful, capable, and charming, yet it is just very hard for them to find a partner. So I conducted an in-depth study on this phenomenon. I found that this is a structural mismatch because the screening logic for marriage and relationships is completely different for men and women. In classic cross-cultural studies, psychologist David Buss found that men tend to value physical appearance and age much more than women do, whereas women place greater importance on earning capacity, education level, and social status. This result has appeared repeatedly in multiple countries around the world. To put it plainly, when men, especially those with good resources, make their choices, they care more about whether the other person looks good, whether she can provide emotional value, whether she is within her reproductive age window, and whether she is easy to get along with. On the other hand, women, especially highly capable women, care more about whether the other person's capabilities and cognitive level match theirs, and whether their values align. Statistics over the past 20 years show that the university graduation rate for women has already surpassed that of men. This in itself is something to be very proud of. However, the result is that the number of highly educated women exceeds that of men. The dating pool of men with the same education, same income, and same age naturally shrinks. While we are already using the logic of growth and development to understand the world, the marriage market is still stuck in the old rules. This is also why more and more outstanding women are starting to not want to get married. It's not that they don't need love, but when they can satisfy most of their financial, quality of life, and spiritual needs by themselves, the cost-benefit ratio of marriage drops significantly. So for those who want to maintain their growth and independence without lowering their standards, is there a way for a relationship to happen without distorting who they are? The answer is yes. But first, it requires you to stand firm on your principles and be willing to spend time proactively choosing your social circles and entering specific structures. Studies show that most people eventually choose partners from the same social circle, the same geographic location, and the same living radius. Because in such environments, the chances of repeated contact are higher and the cost is lower. This kind of proximity refers to being in the same mobility network. For example, you might live in the same residential complex as someone, but you are an entrepreneur while he works at a massive tech company. Your time structures and social circles are completely different, making it almost impossible for you to cross paths. So the problem is that the mobility paths of people in the same social class do not overlap. Therefore, we have to find a way to break this non-overlap. You might say going on blind dates is an option, but it always feels like the underlying purpose is a bit too strong. At this point, we need to find a scenario that isn't as heavily purpose-driven as a blind date. It must allow for genuine interaction, facilitate continuous contact, and also possess a certain level of filtering. This kind of scenario actually exists in real life. It is called a weak purpose, strong filter social environment. Let me give you a few examples. First, long-term learning and growth-oriented environments. This is the closest to the ideal. For instance, a business school is a very typical high-value arena. Many of my MBA classmates at Fudan started dating or even got married during their studies. Other examples include entrepreneurship boot camps, industry training camps, and long-term workshops or clubs. The second is double-threshold communities based on both interest and capability. These are not your ordinary hobby groups like book clubs or board game meetups, which have too much randomness. What we need to find are filtered communities, for example, a small circle of investors, a high-quality sports circle such as a relatively stable core marathon running group, a scuba diving club, or a hiking group. The core of this is that the hobby is just an entry point. What you are really filtering for is a person's level of commitment and persistence towards the things they love. The third is expanding your social network through acquaintances. This is a severely underestimated method. In plain English, it's friends of friends, colleagues of classmates, friends of colleagues. I probably don't need to over-explain the 6 degrees of separation theory. Why is this actually very powerful? Because it comes with an implicit endorsement. Furthermore, the social circle of friends is very similar to yours, so the risk is lower. Many high-quality relationships don't actually come from people you know directly, but from people brought into your circle. Finally, environments meant purely for spontaneous fun, like bars, random parties, or travel flings. These environments are actually more likely to generate emotional connections, but the high probability is that they only bring temporary pleasure. It is very hard to guarantee a long-term match in values, developmental paths, and lifestyles. Of course, no matter what, you can always choose the non-marriage strategy. You can have intimate relationships that are not aimed at marriage, maximizing your freedom and space for personal growth. Aside from intimate relationships, you should optimize your long-term life support system consisting of family and friends. Ultimately, whether you choose to enter a relationship or shine on your own, I wish you self-consistency, joy, and abundance. May every boy and girl who lives earnestly, after seeing the real rules of the world clearly, still have standards that stay true to themselves and possess the wisdom to create the possibility of happiness for themselves. There is truly no standard answer to life, but you always deserve an option that makes you feel comfortable.
我身边好多的70后
Many people around me born in the 70s and 80s have passed away, and I have to say that nowadays, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are the high-risk health demographic. Working in the ER, fighting with the king of hell for lives every single day, I know this all too well. Just go take a look at the doors of the ICU, and you'll see that these people are in far more danger than retired seniors, and they are particularly prone to dying early. I've seen too many people who don't take their own lives seriously. Ultimately, being too greedy is one of the core reasons for premature death. Our generation wants everything. We want to eat and drink with reckless abandon, yet we also want a perfectly healthy body, which is obviously impossible. How exactly are people dying? Having observed so much in the ER, I've summarized several causes. Dying from staying up late, from overworking, from overeating, from drinking, and from anger. Below, I will analyze for you these 6 reasons for premature death. First, most people eat themselves to death. Just like global surveys show, China ranks first in the world for diet-related deaths. There's a vivid saying, in a lifetime, a person eats roughly 50 tons of food. Whoever finishes it first leaves first. High-calorie diets are the main culprit.
Why?
Because the more you eat, especially high-calorie, high-fat, and high-sugar foods, the less your body can digest them. It's like a fire in a stove burning too fiercely. It produces a lot of ash. This ash accumulates in the body, slowly clogging the blood vessels, which then leads to blood sugar and blood pressure issues. In the ER, I saw a young truck driver in his 30s with a belly as big as an overturned wok, brought in at midnight with a heart attack. His wife was crying next to him, saying he couldn't go without meat for 3 meals a day and had to gnaw on a pig's trotter first thing in the morning. In the end, he couldn't be saved, and he was only in his 30s. Nowadays, many of those lying in the hospital's ICU are just like this, not old in age, but with very large bellies. That is why intermittent fasting is advocated now. The more you eat, the earlier you go. This is really no lie. Second, many people drink themselves to death. Alcohol causes visceral fat accumulation and leads to a variety of stomach issues. Nowadays, many people, due to work requirements, have gone from not drinking when they were young to gradually developing an alcohol dependency, becoming addicted to alcohol. Our 120 emergency dispatch has encountered several cases recently. One person suddenly started convulsing at a funeral, and another was sent over from a detention center. Both were alcohol dependent. They just couldn't function without it. The liver is the central metabolic organ of the body, much like the body's chemical plant. It is incredibly important. However, many working professionals in their 40s are forced to drink due to business socializing. Over the long term, their livers are bound to fail. We had a principal here, a very nice guy, who had to socialize and drink every day. He passed away right around the age of 50. Liquor is something that goes down easily, but getting it out of your system costs your life. Third, some people stay up late to death. I've seen too many in the ER who overdraw their bodies by staying up late and die young. Now, many people are already exhausted during the day, but continue to burn the midnight oil. This is clearly overdrawing their life force. Although many do it to earn money and support their families, life is obviously more important. Yet, there are still plenty of people who stay up late every day, recklessly draining their bodies. Just this morning in the ER, I had a patient who scrolled on his phone until 3 a.m. and was brought in the next day with a brain hemorrhage. Over time, senescent cells in the body multiply, genetic mutations occur, DNA gets damaged, and various illnesses follow. To put it bluntly, this is actually nurturing cancer inside your body. Only many people are completely unaware. The fourth situation is talking oneself to death. Groups like trainers, teachers, and live streamers expend a lot of vital energy because they talk too much, making them prone to dying early. Therefore, they must get proper rest. Recently, I've seen several bloggers mentioning that live streaming is too damaging to their health. They are adjusting their pace, and many have already made changes. Observe those streamers who broadcast every day. Their hair turns significantly white within just 2 or 3 years. So, if you can avoid streaming, try not to. If you can stream less, do so. It's not that they don't want to make money. They just value their lives more. Additionally, there are those who overwork, exercise themselves to death. Some successful people are already exhausted during the day, yet they go on to drink heavily at night, stay up past midnight to work out aggressively in the gym, and show up punctually at meetings early the next morning. Do not envy them. Without proper rest, many people collapse right during exercise. You all know about these incidents. It's said that this kind of exercise makes people excited and addicted, but overtraining is extremely damaging to the body. There is a concept called the vitality theory, meaning that the faster your metabolism, the more muscle you have, and the more you eat, the earlier you will pass. You can look into this yourselves. There are also some who die indulging in lust, the lap of luxury. A South Korean study shows that eunuchs lived 14 to 19 years longer than normal men. From watching historical dramas, we also know that a eunuch could outlive several emperors, while the emperors were often short-lived. Ultimately, this is inextricably linked to their indulgence in physical pleasures. I won't go too deep into this. Those who get it, get it. Sixth, some people die of anger. These individuals often calculate too much, are narrow-minded, and hold on to bottled-up anger. As the old saying goes, the ocean is vast because it admits all rivers. We ordinary people cannot achieve a state of zero desires, but at the very least, we should broaden our minds. We need to learn to make peace with ourselves and with others, and not use other people's mistakes to punish ourselves. People should be open-minded and not hold grudges. I've seen this too many times in the ER. A married couple arguing, getting so furiously angry that they come in trembling all over, with their hands cramped up like chicken claws. Or a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law fighting, where the daughter-in-law stews in silent anger every day and eventually develops tumors. Being open-minded is the foundation of happiness, and also the foundation of longevity. Therefore, everyone should cherish life. Cut down on tobacco and alcohol as much as possible. Don't be too greedy for physical indulgences, and strive to live to 100. In daily life, try to eat a bit less, and eat more foods that are good for your body and help clear out waste. The most important thing is to let yourself be a little happier and and more open-minded. Having seen so much in the ER, I can tell you that these few rules truly work better than anything else.
我跟我老公这两天呢，我们做了一个决定，就是
My husband and I made a decision over the past 2 days, which is to send his father, my father-in-law, back to his hometown to fend for himself. A lot of people will probably want to curse us after hearing this. But please, hold your curses and first listen to why we made this decision. At the end of March, my father-in-law suffered a brain hemorrhage due to high blood pressure and had to undergo surgery, remember? After the surgery, a person naturally doesn't recover that quickly. When he was discharged from the hospital, we had no way to watch over him 24 hours a day. Neither my husband nor I could do it, and his daughter couldn't either, because we all have jobs, we all have kids, and we have to work. We had no other choice. So we discussed sending him to a nursing home. He agreed to it himself, so we arranged for him to stay there. After a month he recovered well. He went for a checkup and the doctor said he was completely fine, actually even better than before. He was fully capable of living independently, but he refused to leave. He insisted on staying in the nursing home because there were people there to serve him food and drinks, and he was living a very happy life. We figured, well, it costs 2,600 renminbi, about $366 a month. To be honest, this fee is a bit high for us, because we bear all of it. His nursing home fees, his medication, his surgery, and his hospital bills. All of the expenses were completely shouldered by his son. But that was fine. You gave birth to my husband and raised him. We don't mind spending this money to provide for you. You raised your child, and now that you are old, it is our turn to contribute, and we will do so willingly. It doesn't matter. I am willing to spend this money, even if it means my husband and I have to live frugally. However, he had been living there for about 3 months when this past Saturday, the nursing home sent us a video. What did my father-in-law do? He threw water on someone else, and he did it several times. At first, I thought throwing water might just be elderly people arguing and getting emotionally agitated. But no, he saw an 80-something-year-old man walking down the stairs, and the moment he saw him going down, he hurriedly ran to find his water cup and stood at the top of the stairs throwing water on the man. What if that old man had been walking a little faster? What if he had slipped, fallen, and hit his head? What if the water in that cup had been boiling hot? What would we do then? Did he ever think about the consequences? This wasn't the first time. He had thrown water on others multiple times before but refused to admit it. This time it was caught on video and he still denied it, saying, "That's not me. It's not me, I didn't do it." The consequence that flashed through my mind at that moment was, he got lucky and we got lucky. What if that elderly man had fallen and hit his head? What would we have done? My grandmother had high blood pressure, slipped, hit her head, and passed away in less than an hour. I genuinely dare not imagine what the consequences would have been if that old man had fallen. My first reaction was, my family is going to fall apart. To be honest, our family is having a really hard time right now. Since the Lunar New Year, my husband hasn't been paid his salary for 3 months. With my monthly salary of just over 5,000 renminbi, about $704, I have to pay the mortgage and support our family of 3. Then at the end of March, his surgery and hospital stay cost us 10,000 to 20,000 renminbi, about $1,400 to $2,800. We are bearing all the costs. We are already trying so hard just to live our lives. But as an elder, if you cannot lift your children up, at least don't dig a hole and sabotage us. If you were suffering from senile dementia, or if you had lost your mind, we could let it go. But you are not foolish. You are perfectly healthy in every way. Just because someone said something unpleasant or accidentally took the wrong water cup, you try to harm them like this. Therefore, if you see elderly people poorly fed and poorly dressed, with no children around to take care of them, don't immediately criticize their children for being unfilial. Because it is very likely that the problem lies with the elderly person themselves. I didn't understand this before, but now that it has actually happened to me, I understand it profoundly.
今天这条视频，我希望所有的年轻的小
I hope every young girl can see this video today. Even if you are someone firmly against getting married, I still hope you can patiently watch this. Unless you have a congenital reproductive disorder that physically prevents you from having children, in which case, watch it or not, it's up to you. But as long as you are under 30 and capable of having children, please watch this video carefully. First of all, why did I want to post this video? Because a few days ago, a girl my age, born in 1992, came to me for advice. She comes from a decent family background. She doesn't want to get married, but she wants to have a child. She is already 33 years old this year. Born in 92, she's 33, and in just a couple of years, she will be considered an advanced maternal age mother. She is someone whose life is very self-sufficient and comfortable. She asked me, "Xiaomi, do you have kids?" I said yes, my child is 11 years old this year. Right, if everything went according to my plan, my daughter should only be 2 or 3 years old now. But my daughter is already 11. She was an unplanned pregnancy. When I first had my daughter, I deeply regretted it. I earnestly advised many of my classmates and friends around me not to get married and have kids too early. Absolutely not. I talked until I was blue in the face trying to convince the people around me. But looking back now, it's a bit of a slap in the face.
Why?
Because getting accidentally pregnant and having a child early when I was young and ignorant has left me feeling absolutely fantastic right now. I really feel great. I think I've educated my daughter decently. She is sensible, obedient, and a very optimistic, confident little girl with her own thoughts. Now, when I look back at my classmates who had children much later, they are truly still struggling in the mud of early parenthood. Unless they just never have kids in this lifetime. Back when I had just given birth, I advised the girls around me not to get married and have children. They constantly claimed, "I'm never getting married, I don't need a man." But now, without exception, they have all gotten married and had children. I can't say there is absolutely no one around me who hasn't married or had kids. There are, but they are extremely rare. And for those rare exceptions, it's not that they don't want to. It's that they haven't met the right person they want to marry. Truly, the girls in their early 20s watching this might not believe me. As for women over 30, unless you belong to the high net worth individual, HNWI, demographic, where the proportion of those not marrying or having kids might be higher, for ordinary working women over 30, you can leave a comment in my comment section. Are there really that many people around you who haven't married or had kids? I mean ordinary working people. The wealthy girls have choices. They have money. If they want a child, they can just find a college boy or keep a younger boy toy to have one with. But for ordinary girls, don't think that just because of trauma from your original family or whatever other reason, you simply don't want to marry or have kids. Let me tell you a cruel truth. As women, our monthly period is controlled by our body's hormones. It's not like if you don't want your period to come, it won't. You cannot control your hormones. During my consulting sessions, I've met many older women who genuinely wanted nothing to do with marriage or children when they were young. They didn't want anything. But once they pass their 30s, suddenly, in a specific moment, their bloodline awakens, and their body's hormones push them to think about it. Suddenly, kids who used to seem noisy, annoying, and bothersome now seem incredibly cute, and they desperately want a baby of their own. Even if they don't want a man, they already want a baby. This is especially true for many women who have some assets and decent incomes. These people constantly talk about focusing on their careers. Focusing on a career is fine, but who are you doing it for? It's fine if you don't marry and don't do it for a man, but who will you leave your career and assets to? Really, I heard a story from a client who came to me for consultation. She has a female friend, and that friend has a child. My client initially thought, I'll just leave my assets to my nephew or niece. I don't want to experience the pain of marriage and childbirth since I have a successful career. But until one day, she personally heard her friend's child ask her friend, when is she going to die? When she dies, will all her property become mine in the future? Hearing that, she felt like she was struck by lightning. Let me tell you, kids speak without a filter. My daughter once asked me this question too. My daughter once asked, Mom, when you die, will I get all your phones? Children really just speak without thinking. They honestly don't have any malicious intent. But in that exact moment, she suddenly wanted a child of her own.
Why?
Because she thought this is someone else's child. Honestly, if my own daughter said something like that, I'd feel quite chilled in my heart, though I'd know she was just being thoughtless. But when you hear someone else's child, even your own sister's child, say something like that, your scalp will literally tingle. It's truly terrifying. So if you really don't have much money right now, sisters, if you are the type who isn't capable of building a career, then as I said, you either focus on a career or you focus on getting a man. If you can't build a career and you end up with neither money nor a man, honestly, people like that live quite a miserable life. When you are young, you might not get laid off, and being in the government system is somewhat okay. But then again, there's a lot of gossip in the system. People might scold you, and male bosses there love to make jokes about older, unmarried, leftover women. Those who know. Tell me, if you can't get money and can't get a man, your future will be miserable. As for women who can make money, truly, you don't have to get married, but it's best to have a child of your own. Raising a child isn't about securing a retirement plan or expecting them to be filial when you're old. It's because when you are young and making money, everyone wants to eat, drink, and play. But there will come a day when you've had enough of playing. Maybe after 35, you won't yearn for traveling, eating, and drinking as much. At that point, a child is the coordinate of your life. What is a life coordinate? Unmarried and childless girls in front of the screen definitely won't understand. Passing this year and next year doesn't really feel much different. But those who have had a baby definitely understand. From pregnancy, in every stage, your body feels different. You get pregnant, your child is born, and then starts walking at age 1, your feelings are vastly different. You will think, wow, a year has passed. Before, a passing year felt like nothing, but after having a child, the child acts like a coordinate, and you helplessly watch a little sapling grow up. If you've had pets, you know this feeling, watching your cats and dogs grow up and become well-behaved. Do you understand that feeling? Women with financial power, in particular, should have their own children. It's not like you lack the money, right? Also, for those who say they don't want kids due to painful trauma from their original families, having a child is actually a process of healing yourself. Whatever you lacked in childhood, you can recreate by raising a child, which is essentially raising yourself all over again. I am truly not being an alarmist. Like I said, your body's hormones are urging you to do this. The biggest difference between women and men is that we have a biological age limit for reproduction. If you don't have kids when you're young, you won't have the time to regret it when you're old. If you can't conceive, there's no time to turn back. So when you are young, you can focus on your career and ignore men. Once you are financially stable, you can have a child on your own. No matter how you do it, it's best to have one. Let me take a step back and say something irresponsible. You could get married first, have a child, and then, taking a step back, divorce. At least you have a child now, and you no longer have fertility anxiety. I'm sure many people in front of the screen will object, saying, "That's too irresponsible. You are not a responsible parent." Sisters, let me tell you, when you face anxiety, when you have fertility anxiety, all that talk about being responsible or being perfect parent stops being important. No one can be a perfect person. You just need to fulfill your most basic responsibilities. Of course, let me give a reminder here. Those who inherently suffer from depression, anxiety, or have these physiological illnesses, it's best for this group not to have children. Those who do not have the slightest capacity to be responsible for a child should not have children. Of course, I'm not saying everyone must reproduce. Some people truly shouldn't have kids. But as long as you feel you are not that irresponsible of a person, sisters, seize the time while you're young. You don't have to find a man, but fertility has an expiration date. I'm telling you, you can get a man in your 40s or 50s as long as you have money. But having a child truly isn't something you can just do whenever you want to. So when I say this, many young girls might not fully understand it, but I genuinely hope you seriously think about it. As I said, either focus hard on your career while you're young so you can afford a child later, or if you can't build a career, have a child while you are young. Of course, if you belong to the group that absolutely hates and despises children, then don't even consider it. But as long as you don't hate kids that much, take a good look at how long your reproductive age allows you to mess around. Stop thinking about how online bloggers hype up that some people don't deserve to be parents. We are not perfect people. Accept that you are not a perfect person, and accept that you cannot be a perfect parent. I am not a perfect mother either. I will scold my daughter and smack her. But my daughter still loves me very much. This love gives me strength. It makes me a better person, a better mother, and a better woman. How should I put it? When you feel a child's unconditional love for you, you truly become filled with energy. Of course, I'm not here to glorify how grand maternal love is. Maternal love is not that grand. I said I am not a grandmother, but I am truly afraid that many girls will only focus on playing and enjoying themselves in their youth, and when the day comes that they want a child, they find they can't conceive. That is a very tragic thing. Especially when you have money and want a child but can't conceive. You say you'll adopt a child with no blood relation? Nowadays, first of all, adoption isn't that easy. The procedures are not simple to handle. Secondly, you people are not that noble. You truly won't be able to raise someone else's child. So, I genuinely hope the girls in front of the screen realize it's okay not to get a man, and sometimes having a child is truly for yourself. The child is truly yours. A man might not be yours. Why did I realize this? Because I have met so many girls who regret not having kids early in their youth. When they get older, their health declines. And before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. Connecting with viewers from all around the world is a huge inspiration for us. Thank you so much.
Have you noticed that people nowadays talk less and less about love? I mean romantic love. You might say it's easy for me to talk because I'm already married, but I actually observe, analyze, and summarize things. If you look closely at those top-tier relationship bloggers and big dating advice influencers, if they have truly achieved massive success with men and in love, why do they still need to teach you? Why do they need to dig into your pockets for a few thousand RMB, about a few hundred USD, to teach you? Also, have you ever thought about whether they actually got those results from men? No, they got their results from you, sisters. I've wanted to say this for a long time because most of my followers started following me after a breakup. I honestly really don't want to admit that I'm a breakup blogger or a relationship blogger. I'm a beauty influencer. Look at how good my cosmetic procedures look now. So today, I specifically want to talk to you about love. It's been a long time since I brought it up. I know it's not that you don't need it, it's just that you don't know how to do it. Look at Douyin, it teaches us how to love ourselves. Zaya Hongshu teaches you how to love life. Shopping websites tell you that if you love yourself, you should buy yourself lots of things. When a word can describe everything, it effectively describes nothing. So, I once again marvel at the profoundness of Chinese characters. Every word has its own specific meaning. You see, marriage is these two characters and love is these two different characters. They are not the same. But when it comes to dating, it has turned into a game of strategy, where everyone is teaching you how to get results. Every day they tell you that you need to have the upper hand. You need to be in a high-value position. You need to set the frame. You need to do this and that. Honestly, I don't understand these terms at all. So you see, people now don't talk about love. They talk about emotional value. Everyone is using this packaged, commercialized language to talk about feelings, to calculate, what can I get out of this? I think the deepest reason is that most of us have never seen true love. To be honest, I hadn't seen it in the past either. So what is love? I think love is a sense of certainty that requires no demanding. It's just a feeling of constant presence. But unfortunately, living in this era, well, girls born after 2000 have it a bit better. Their families might be better off, and they haven't experienced such a scarcity of love or material things. But for our generation, those born before 96, and especially the 80s and 70s generations, we mostly grew up in an environment of transactional love. Since nobody has seen true love, all you can do is negotiate conditions. Talk about height, weight, what they look like without makeup, how they make a living, their market value. You only talk about things that are visible and calculable. But at the same time, I deeply understand and feel for you. Because every time I see you acting tough, claiming you're done with love, deep down, you are the ones who want to be loved the most. Because I used to be exactly like you. I was that kind of person, stubborn and hard-mouthed. Don't let my current talkative, ENTP persona fool you. I used to be an INFP. Conflicted, insecure, sensitive, constantly overthinking, a Leo, with an avoidant attachment style. All the negative buffs stacked up. But basically, I was someone who lacked love yet refused to express it. What is this? It's demanding love. How did it manifest specifically? When he didn't reply to my messages immediately, I'd panic. Is he messing around with some other girl? Is he ignoring me again? Did he go play games with his friends again? What's more important, gaming or me? I would never just say, "Baby, I miss you, I really need you to keep me company." And when he asked what was wrong, I'd say, "Nothing." Let me recreate the scenario for you. You don't love me at all, because you don't understand me at all. You never say anything. How am I supposed to understand? If you really loved me, would you still need me to say it? But I'm not you. How would I know if you don't say it? True understanding shouldn't need words, right? Cold War's avoidance, saying the opposite of what I meant. If you love me, you should be able to guess. Come on, even an HRBP who reads people for a living couldn't do that. Let alone acting cute or being vulnerable. Oh, I can't do this, I miss you so much, hubby. I couldn't say it. I couldn't even call him hubby. Because, for a strong ego-like woman, like me, acting vulnerable feels like standing on the edge of a cliff and free falling, waiting for someone to catch me. What if he doesn't catch me? That would be so awkward, embarrassing, and shameful. So I chose a safer method, one where I could attack or retreat. If he coaxed me, it proved he really cared about me. If he didn't, then see? He just doesn't love me. Then, heartbroken, I would tell myself, see? Relationships are just so unreliable and fragile. Good thing I dumped you first. Because to me back then, losing something felt more secure than possessing it. So I never dared to tell the other person that I wanted to have them, or that I was worthy of being theirs. I never dared. So you see, the outcome of this is usually loss. Because your entire way of thinking and behaving is heading straight toward loss. Why is it like this? Because I had a black hole in my heart. I couldn't validate my own worth from within. I felt my existence was meaningless. I had to demand it externally. Only if someone constantly affirmed and encouraged me would I feel I had value. So whenever I couldn't feel my own worth, I would constantly seek positive feedback to prove the meaning of my existence. I would constantly stir up drama in the relationship. The more intense the feedback, the stronger my sense of existence. That's why when I watched the movie Across the Furious Sea, I deeply resonated with the female lead. I used to be just that crazy really. I love those intense, earth-shattering romances, the abusive, heart-wrenching kinds of love. That's why I could never accept a peaceful, ordinary relationship. If the other person gave me respect, I felt it was alienation. If they established boundaries, I thought they were cold. I just wanted that high-concentration love where we were glued together every single day. I couldn't breathe. I just wanted to lie in my mother's arms and be held every day. What is this? It's called being a giant baby. I used to be a giant baby. Have you noticed that people like us love stories like Hachiko, A Dog's Tale? Every time I watch these emotional bonds between animals and humans, I cry every single time. I thought that was true love. It looked like ultimate loyalty. But what I didn't tell you is that I realized I wanted to be that dog. I wanted to be that animal. But the reality is I am not a dog. I am a human. And being human means being changeable, being fluid. You can't stay the same your whole life. And you can't go without growing. Just like fireworks, they burst brightly for a second. But they can't stay blooming forever, right? The other person gets tired too. And I'm not just talking about men here. It could be women too. So I think that kind of thing, that hyper-concentrated love, simply does not exist in this world. Sometimes the less I believed in love, the more I would frequently test it, trying to prove, see, you don't love me that much. Until finally the other person would say, it's not that I don't love you, I'm just too exhausted to keep coaxing you. Let's put ourselves in their shoes. If you were them, wouldn't you be tired? I'm not just taking the man's side. What if the person she loved was a girl? Wouldn't those two still break up? Wouldn't the relationship still fail? So I'm talking about empathy. As human beings, we should put ourselves in others' shoes, shouldn't we? So later on I slowly realized, I wasn't loving. I was consuming love. I slowly drained a person who originally loved me very much until there was nothing left. But look at me. Date, break up, and date and break up again. Eventually, I figured it out. Where was the problem? It wasn't entirely the other person's fault. I had issues too. Because I felt I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve to be loved. I wasn't thin enough, wasn't pretty enough, my legs were too thick, I had a pear-shaped body, my breasts weren't big enough. But later you realize that when someone falls for you, it's never about the things you desperately try to prove. It's simply about your existence. Looking back at my past relationships now, honestly, the guys I dated actually loved me quite a bit. Because back then, I wasn't as confident, pretty, wealthy, or socially established as I am now. I had no status or influence, none of it. Self-worth is something that absolutely does not need to be proven. You are alive, you exist, therefore you have value. Honestly, I actually learned this from you guys. Because sometimes I didn't understand. Have you noticed that in my older videos, I rarely started by calling you sisters, besties, or even wifey? I just couldn't say it. Because I fundamentally didn't believe anyone in this world genuinely liked me. Growing up, nobody around me really liked me. My classmates and female friends didn't play with me much. I grew up in an environment where I was often excluded and disliked. So when I started making social media content, I would just say, hello everyone, my name is See You. Later, I saw others calling their followers sisters or wives and getting great traffic, so I tried to copy them. But now I truly feel that you are my friends, my fans, and my friends. You watch my 20-minute videos patiently without fast-forwarding, and leave huge paragraphs of comments for me. You have to know in this internet age, that is incredibly rare. Money can't buy that. Also, when I cry you still like me. When I recommend products, no matter how expensive or cheap, you buy them. Even when I got plastic surgery, you still liked me. You liked me when my face was square, and you still like me now that my face is a V shape. I also added many longtime fans on WeChat, like Dayudiu, Xiaoyuan, and Hoopa. Hoopa wrote me a very long letter, and when I read it, my tears fell and blurred the words she had written with a blue marker. So my current ENTP style confidence is entirely given to me by you guys. Do you know that? You see, love needs to be expressed. It's this kind of unconditional trust, you know? But have you noticed? You never demand anything from me. When I don't update you say, See You, why haven't you updated yet? I miss you. There was a time I stopped posting, and many of you messaged me saying, what are you doing lately? Did something happen to you? One fan left a comment saying, she's probably off somewhere improving herself. When she's done leveling up, she'll come back. Do you see? That
如果我有女儿，她结婚要找一个穷的婆家。
if I had a daughter and she wanted to marry into a poor family, I would be the first to object. I would tell her what I am about to say to make her understand what this choice means. You must watch this to the end and save this video for your daughter. Having worked in a hospital for so long, I have seen through the true nature of too many families and the reality of human nature. If you are an unmarried young woman, I hope you can listen to the 4 points I am about to make. First, after getting married and having children, you will realize that being poor is just the smallest flaw of this family. Girls in their 20s often feel that talking about money is tacky. They insist on going against the grain, thinking that as long as he loves me, it's enough. But you have to understand that poverty isn't just a temporary lack of money. It is often the result of a family's long-term cognition, thinking habits, and character. You might think that not asking for a bride price and not demanding a house or a car is noble, but in the underlying logic of a poor husband's family, this is called cheap goods or no good. They will not be grateful for your financial sacrifices and understanding. Instead, they will secretly rejoice at getting something for nothing. They might even think that you married into their family not because you love their son so much, but because you simply couldn't find anything better. You throw yourself in with full passion, but what you receive is not cherish, but contempt, because poverty is often accompanied by short-sightedness and a desire for control. What they think about is how to permanently manipulate you in this new family, continuing to back their own son to be the master of the house. Second, let me explain the relationship between poverty and love. Marriage in a poor family often revolves entirely around basic survival, and the probability of finding a good man from such a family is like winning the lottery. The love they can give you is mostly just empty promises painted by their words. Once you have a child, the real, brutal life begins. You won't have the money to hire a maternity matron, and your husband's family won't be able to provide financial support or physical help. While other people's children enjoy the deep love, financial backing, and educational support of their grandparents, your child can only suffer alongside you. You might think that enduring hardships is a virtue, but when you see your child lose a good starting line because of your choice, you will definitely feel guilty. Marriage is not just choosing a partner for yourself. It is choosing a background for your future children. The positive development of a family requires the efforts of 3 generations. Choosing a poor-in-law family means that all the heavy burdens must be shouldered entirely starting from your generation. Third, you might be able to grit your teeth through financial struggles, but the mental drain is enough to bleed you dry. The bottom tier of society is often accompanied by more pettiness, defensiveness, and calculation. Many girls find that they contribute money and effort to serve their parents-in-law, never missing a cent in red envelopes and gifts during holidays, yet the elders still don't appreciate their kindness. Because in the eyes of a poor husband's family, if you treat them slightly well, they don't see it as the filial piety of the younger generation. Instead, they vigilantly speculate whether you are plotting for their pension. Once the elderly lack morals and a sense of boundaries, whatever you do is wrong. They will also build a pitiful persona for themselves in front of relatives and friends, using the worst words to describe you. Even if your husband stands on your side, he won't be able to withstand the frequent outbreaks of such family conflicts. What you sacrifice is not only money and physical energy, but also the grievance of being unseen and misunderstood year after year. Fourth, and the most fatal point, the disaster of elderly care. I see this most clearly standing by the hospital beds. Parents-in-law with good conditions have pensions when they get old, medical insurance when they get sick, and can afford caregivers. However, due to long-term physical overexertion, nutritional deficiency, and a lack of health awareness, poor-in-laws often end up paralyzed in sickbeds earlier and more severely. I have seen too many young daughters-in-law, heavily pregnant or carrying a nursing baby, having to borrow money everywhere for their parents-in-law's medical bills. They have to serve them intimately by the bedside, and if their facial expression is even slightly unpleasant, they are morally hijacked and accused of being unfilial. Did you think choosing a poor husband's family just meant taking a smaller bride price at the wedding? You are wrong. It means you are chaining yourself to an endless financial black hole for the rest of your life. When getting married into a well-off family, there is a house, a car, and financial security. You can have a peaceful postpartum confinement, and when the parents-in-law get sick, they can handle it themselves. But when you marry into a poor family, your marriage is basically targeted poverty alleviation. After giving birth, you fight alone, and when they get old and sick, you become the free, long-term caregiver. Calculating both the pros and cons, this represents 2 or even 3 times the life debt cost. Girl, if you have watched up to this point and still feel that this is the only man in the world who can make you happy, then let me tell you one last sentence. Love and marriage are 2 different things. If you are madly in love, then just boldly date him. But once you get that marriage certificate, the birth, aging, illness, and death of 2 generations become the legal shackles you cannot push away. Don't use the overflowing sympathy of your youth to gamble away the destiny of your entire life.
大龄女生，如果说你自己
For older single women who already have a house, a car, and a successful career, I truly suggest you choose to remain single. There is no need for you to come out here and suffer frustration, and even less need to say that matchmakers like us are trying to gaslight, PUA you, because you proactively entered the matchmaking market yourself. Since you chose to come, You must accept the rules of this market. Let me put it this way. I've noticed that in Chengdu right now, there are many older single ladies who, as soon as they open their mouths at a matchmaking agency, are extremely arrogant. They show off which company they work for, what their educational background is, how high their income is, and how good their family background is. Every word they speak is meant to express how outstanding they are. But unfortunately, every time we recommend them to a male client and arrange a match, the guy's very first questions are always, "How old is she? Is she pretty? Can you send me her photo to look at?" Only after that will he ask about the girl's education, job, and family background. No man ever asks right off the bat, "Does this girl have a house? Does she have a car? How much money does she make a month?" Have you noticed? In the matchmaking market, the demands of men and women are completely different. Just this afternoon, I took on a client born in 1991. She holds a master's degree from Australia and is a regional manager at a large company with an annual salary of around 400,000 to 500,000 renminbi, about 56,000 to 70,000 US dollars. She had previously been in charge of overseas operations and was only transferred to Chengdu last year. When she arrived, her opening remarks sounded exactly like a job interview. She told me which prestigious overseas university she graduated from, which well-known enterprise she is currently a manager in, what scholarships she won during her school years, what achievements she has made during her career, followed by a long string of professional jargon. It gave me a headache listening to her. So I quickly interrupted her and asked, "What kind of man are you looking to find?" She said she could accept someone up to 5 years older or 5 years younger. He must have a master's degree or above, with a PhD being preferred. He must be unmarried. Furthermore, he must have a fully paid off marital home in Chengdu. Because her own house is in another city and she hasn't bought one in Chengdu yet, and considering that housing prices in Chengdu are lower than where she used to live, the male candidate should ideally have 2 marital homes. His annual income cannot be less than 500,000 renminbi, about 70,000 US dollars, and must be relatively stable. His capabilities must be stronger than hers, making her feel a sense of admiration. Otherwise, he wouldn't attract her. Of course, the lady felt that she was very young at heart and could also accept dating a younger man. If the guy is younger than her, she required him to have at least a bachelor's degree from a Project 985 university, an annual salary of over 300,000 renminbi, about 42,000 US dollars, and one fully paid-off house. As long as she could see that this young man had room for future growth, that would be acceptable. This long list of demands really made my scalp tingle at the time. I told the girl right then and there, "My dear, you are actually more suited to being single. Why do you insist on wronging yourself by coming to the matchmaking market and being so picky? Think about it. You have a house, a car, a career, and an annual salary of hundreds of thousands of RMB, tens of thousands of USD. If you don't get married, your life will be so free and comfortable. But once you step into the matchmaking market, you must accept the labels this market puts on you. Whether it's the older guys with an annual income over 500,000 renminbi, about 70,000 US dollars, or the younger guys making 300,000 renminbi, about 42,000 US dollars a year, not a single one of them will choose you. With their conditions, it's more than easy for them to choose a pretty girl in her 20s with a stable job and a bachelor's degree." Then this lady said to me, "But I am outstanding enough. I'm not like other women who don't have a house or a car themselves yet demand that the man must have them." I replied, "If you already have a house and a car yourself, why do you still demand that the man must have a house and a car? Because you won't let anyone else live in your house. Not only will you not let others live in it, but you also want to use your one house as leverage to get 2 houses from someone else. You want to use your high income to exchange for more resources from the man. But once a man reaches that level of income, he isn't stupid either. Ladies, once you pass the age of 35, basically very few high-quality men will choose you, unless you can consider divorced men without children. If you pass the age of 40, you shouldn't even think about divorced men without children. If you still want to get married, you can only accept being a stepmother to someone else's child, let alone looking for some young, promising, handsome guy or a middle-aged, successful tycoon. Impossible. Do you think they lack your house? Do you think they care about your career ambition? Not at all. What they care more about is whether you are pretty, whether your personality is gentle, whether you are young, and whether you have a good figure. Only after meeting these basic conditions will he look at your educational background, your job, and your family background. Men are always attracted visually first, and then they weigh the pros and cons. When someone comes in setting terms and conditions right off the bat like this, basically no man will entertain it. But this lady couldn't listen to any of it. She told me that it's impossible for all men to be as superficial as I described, and that there must be a man waiting for her who values her inner qualities more. As a matchmaker, if I take you on as a client, I will be collecting your money, so there is really no need for me to lie to her. So, why don't you guys tell this girl? Does this kind of man actually exist?
婚姻制度将在100年内消失。
The institution of marriage will disappear within 100 years. This was the prediction made by sociologist Lee Inha a few years ago. At that time, everyone laughed and thought she was crazy. But now more and more people are starting to suspect she might be right. Have you noticed that it is no longer news that young people today are not getting married? 300 million single people, late marriage, non-marriage, and living alone have become the norm. Marriage, once regarded as an essential path in life, is now facing more and more resistance. What on earth happened? The superficial reasons are simple. High housing prices, expensive childcare, high bride prices, and an intense workplace grind. But today I want to tell you that these are just symptoms. The real, underlying cause is that the traditional institution of marriage has completely failed to keep up with the development of new productive forces. Before addressing this issue, you must first understand what marriage actually is. Is it a commitment of love? Come on. The institution of marriage is essentially a partnership contract. What truly binds a marriage is the division of responsibilities and the splitting of family wealth. In primitive societies, men and women teamed up to better combat survival risks. Men hunted, women gathered, complementing each other's advantages. In agricultural civilizations, men were responsible for farming to provide food and shelter, while women were responsible for bearing children and managing housework. This was the foundation that allowed marriage to persist for thousands of years. In that old system, men held the core resources, and women could only be dependents. Have you ever looked at a family genealogy? Almost everyone with a name on it is male, while women are mostly nameless. As recently as the 1980s, some rural areas still had the custom. A married daughter is like spilled water, and she is not allowed to return to her maternal home without a major event. This is because the essence of marriage at that time was forced cooperation under the basic demand for survival. Why don't young people accept this now? Because the three major pillars on which traditional marriage relied for survival have all been shattered. The first blow is industrialization, which brought economic independence to women. In the past, it was difficult for women to survive independently, but after industrialization, a woman can easily enter the workforce and earn a few thousand RMB, about a few hundred USD, a month. Today many women earn no less than men. Once economically independent, their personality becomes independent as well, and marriage changes from a necessity to an optional elective. Unless they meet someone they truly like, why get married? The second blow is socialized services, which shattered the foundation of marriage. In the past, if a bachelor didn't get a wife, even eating was a problem. What about now? Hot meals are delivered to your door in 20 minutes, a taxi is called in 5 minutes, and 99% of one's needs can be solved on one's own. If you can survive well without relying on others, why spend energy maintaining a relationship? The third blow is the awakening of individual consciousness, which shattered the social consensus. In the past, the standard for judging a person's maturity was whether they had settled down and established a career, but now your colleagues and friends don't care whether you are married when interacting with you. Young people suddenly realize that life's value has no absolute relationship with marriage. When these three things happen simultaneously, the foundation of traditional marriage is completely shattered. From a female perspective, if I can live just as well without marrying, why should I marry you and bear your children and do your housework? Thus, they will keep raising their demands: a house, a car, hundreds of thousands of RMB in bride prices, about tens of thousands of USD, and handing over the salary. Why? Because marriage is simply not an essential option anymore. If you want me to marry you, you must show the strength to prove you can make my life better. What about from a male perspective? First, the bride's family demands too much. Houses costing hundreds of thousands to millions of RMB, about tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of USD, and hundreds of thousands of RMB in bride prices, about tens of thousands of USD, which drains the entire family. Second, there are too many cases of marriage and bride price fraud in society, making the risk of marriage too high. Third, in the past, a bride price was exchanged for family responsibility. Now some women only want the bride price but do not want to assume responsibilities. Fourth, as for carrying on the family line, many people have neither a throne nor land to inherit, so highly educated men really don't care about it anymore. This is the truth behind the declining marriage rate. High pressure is just a symptom. The root cause is that the traditional institution of marriage can no longer keep up with this era. If the institution of marriage is to continue in the future, it must be reformed. I have 4 suggestions. First, relieve the heavy one-sided pressure of buying houses and paying bride prices. Marriage is a mutual effort of equal men and women, not a one-sided extraction. Second, reform at the legal level. Property division and bride price amounts must be reasonable. and marriage must not be treated as a business transaction. Third, redefine the division of labor. Housework and childcare are not the sole responsibility of women. They must be shared jointly. Fourth, return to the emotional essence. Marriage is not a transaction, but a mutual commitment of two independent individuals based on mutual appreciation. Future marriage must be equal and voluntary, with balanced rights and responsibilities, and spiritual coexistence. Only in this way can we adapt to the new era and bring happiness.
Hello, everyone. Having journeyed through the raw slices of life we've explored, from the heavy burden of bride prices and the unspoken struggles of family caregiving to the loneliness of adulthood and the shifting paradigms of our era, we are brought to a vital realization. Modern life places heavy weights of pressure and anxiety on all of us. We often find ourselves desperately seeking a harbor to lean on, or overcalculating the gains and losses in our relationships, sometimes forgetting that true love is not an economic equation, and marriage should never be used as a tool to escape personal crises. The essence of happiness does not lie in the glamorous standards painted by social media, but rather in self-healing and understanding ourselves. Both men and women carry their own silent struggles in this day and age. When we force ourselves into outdated societal templates or chase after unrealistic expectations, the outcome is often nothing but physical and emotional exhaustion. The most meaningful lesson we can draw from all of this is that your value does not require validation from anyone else. It has existed from the very moment you entered this world. When you build a rich inner world and cultivate a solid sense of security from within, you will no longer constantly seek approval from others, nor will you need to define yourself through someone else's standards. Remember, there is no single, correct answer to life. Whether you choose to enter a relationship or shine beautifully on your own, the most important thing is that you feel at peace with your choice. Aside from romantic partnerships, investing in your own growth and nurturing a healthy support system of family and friends is what truly sustains us in the long run. Thank you for walking this path with Chinese emotion. May each of us find the courage to hold onto our own true standards and the wisdom to create the happiness we genuinely deserve.